This is Seasons of Discontent with your hosts Rick Snyder and Matt Combs on the Hogstein Network.
Welcome to Seasons of Discontent, Season 5, Episode 6, brought to you by Rick Snyder's Washington on YouTube. I'm Rick Snyder.
And I'm Matt.
And we're back discussing all things Washington sports and life as part of the mighty Hogstein Network on audio and, of course, my YouTube channel on video. So, Matt got one game in the books. They lost to New England, although it was kind of tied, and then it wasn't tied, and then they let it back a touchdown. So, by and large, it was about an even Steven thing. And the bad news is this isn't the old Patriots. So, I thought it was an okay effort that you could expect out of a first game. The starters played about 2 series each. Looked okay. Chase Young looked great. Fitz looked okay. They had a couple problems. The rest of it you just kind of ignored.
Yeah, I mean, let's not pull out the Kleenexes and bury them already. I mean, it was one preseason game, and look, there's a hell of a team that lined up across from them. We talked about what the Patriots did in the offseason, finally spending a boatload of money, and they have some impressive players on that team. So, look, I mean, it's preseason. It's the first game of the preseason. The pieces that we needed to see, we pretty much saw. I mean, that was a nice deep ball from Fitz to McLaurin. I mean, Logan Thomas still looks good. Antonio Gibson is going to be a big factor in this offense. I have a feeling this year he's going to probably catch a lot more passes this year than he did last year. I don't know. I don't think it's any time. Look, the Titanic ain't tanking on water. Let's not panic and start throwing people overboard. I mean, it was a preseason game.
Well, okay. So the first thing on Twitter world that everybody's going insane about was the kicker. All right. So in the offseason, they let go Nick Sudberg. I thought, wow, that's kind of a curious move. I didn't think he was that bad. I didn't see him make any mistakes. Maybe he was a little slower. I don't know. And then, of course, I heard, oh, yeah, the new guy they got snaps even faster. So they spent a 6th-round pick breaking up a chemistry of 6 years. And the new kid, Cameron Cheeseman, supposedly snaps a little faster. Okay. But then Hopkins is waiting to kick. He's waiting for Tressway to raise his left hand to get the ball. But the timing is just a touch off, and it's a 1.3-second whole operation. So is Hopkins missing 2 field goals on him? Is it on the center? Is it maybe he's talking to Tressway about leaning the ball differently? It takes a village to miss a kick. I don't know. Hopkins had his worst year of 6 years last year.
And that was going to be my point. Going to be my point.
He was at 79% versus like 80, 81. So
yeah, you've had, and I understand all that argument. And I heard Ron say that they have to work on the chemistry, but we saw the rookie kicker, who is probably not going to make the roster in New England, go out there and bomb 2 field goals when Nick Folk sat out. I mean, that kid's coming out of college. He's probably just met his long snapper and his holder. So I disregard that argument from Rivera. I think, honestly, it's been a disservice that they have not brought in competition for Hopkins. They didn't do it last year, and they haven't done it in camp. I mean, maybe sometimes you just need a little nudge. Maybe they'll wait till cut down day, but then that's when your continuity comes into play that Rivera always talks about with the snapper and the holder. I mean, like you said, Hopkins had his worst year last year. I won't say it's inexcusable because it was a preseason game, but it's a continuation of last year when he had his worst season.
Well, the interesting part is Rivera has really stayed steadfast backing Hopkins. Now, it's going to say these things anyway, but we got like 8 players left from 2 years ago under Jay's crew. Right. We didn't have anybody else, so why Hopkins on this? One of the I asked people about this stuff. So why not bring in a second kicker? And I often heard, well, it takes away a spot from another position. I'm like, what 91st guy you would have had in here is going to ever make a roster? So, and now the hard part is go, well, we have a plan B. We have a list of kickers we can bring in. I wonder how hard it is with the COVID situation. Is that kicker vaccinated? Does he have a negative test? Can you just can't call a guy up, send a cab for him and bring him over.
Yeah, it's not like the old days.
Yeah. So it's not going to be for probably the whole year. So that's a little bit of maybe stay with your guy. I think he gives him the preseason. And if he just sucks, okay, then there may be a change. Then you're on the real short leash. We've seen how that goes around here. Man.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe last year he felt that Hopkins' issues were Nick Sundberg. Nick Sundberg also made over $1 million. I mean, maybe it was just a way to get younger at a position, before Sundberg kind of hit a wall. Who knows? I mean, look, Sundberg has not been picked up by anybody else. So,
right.
Clearly it's one of those guys that we elevated in this town as a, Hall of Famer, which we like to do. But in reality and in other people's eyes, I mean, he's just a guy. I mean,
I don't know how many deep snappers change annually around the NFL. I bet it's not more than a couple. I mean, pretty much that's a position you really stay.
It's funny because I just saw a team today signed a long snapper, and it wasn't Sundberg. It was somebody else. I'm not sure who, but I think it was the Chargers.
Well, he could have come back for revenge right away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting. I never have heard a real reason as to why they changed it, but I hate if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Redskin Park, or as we call it, the new Sports Performance Center. They have one set of field goals the uprights that they kick through, and these uprights are about half the width of a normal upright. So they try and if you can kick through that, you can kick through the big things. That's kind of new. And I just thought, okay, because I'm watching practice thinking it's not doing that well, and then I realized, oh yeah, it's the shorter field goals. Uprights. I don't know. I would use the regular uprights personally, but it sounds good.
Yeah.
But they have 6 or 7 other real ones out there. Whenever North added one of the equipment guys, he'd make them kick field goals on the side the ball went into the woods, and then the guy would go in the woods and get them. Poison ivy or whatever. So that was one of the little things around the park. All right, quarterbacks. Fitzpatrick didn't do anything wrong. The one pass I loved was when Humphreys was crossing the field, and the camera angle gave you a great shot of seeing Fitzpatrick's eyes. Never looked at him till the last second. Yep. He's in you. He's just not looking at him. He's looking here. He's going like this. Boom, goes the other way. I like that. He managed a couple touch passes I liked. There's nothing to knock there on him.
No, I mean, he's a 14-year vet. I mean, he's a 14-year vet that still has tread on the tires, like you look at Alex Smith last year, aside from the injury. I mean, Alex was, he's been rode hard, I mean, he had a long career with the 49ers, and then he had a resurrection with Kansas City. He was on his last leg when he got here. No pun intended. Fitz still has a little bit of tread on the tires. He's been a career backup. He's had his starts. Fitz's situation has always been he comes in as the starter, and then within 2 years he's replaced as the guy, when they get some young rookie. So I think Fitz has a little bit more tread on his tires, and Fitz just has a poise about him. I mean, people always talk about with athletes, they have this swagger. And I know it's the beard and the hair and, the goofy outfits and the chains and everything that he wears at his press conferences. But Fitz does have a little bit of swagger that a guy like Alex Smith didn't have. He has that little bit of, I'm good and we're going to go places to him. Now whether he backs it and there's really no reason to doubt him yet. I mean, we haven't played a real game. Come week 1 against the Chargers, and maybe a different story coming out of my mouth, but I like what he brings. I mean, he brings a veteran presence to a young core. I mean, look at the wide receivers that he has to deal with. I don't think anybody's been in the league except for Humphreys, who's a security blanket. Nobody's been in the league more than 4 years. I mean, he's got a very young wide receiving core. He's got a young backfield. Aside from J.D. McKissick, he's been in the league a couple of years and bounced around. He's got a young offensive line. I mean, this is a guy that can really bring something to this team and teach these kids and teach Heineke. I mean, I liked what I saw out of Heineke. I always have. I'm not one of these guys that just wants to anoint Heineke the savior of all DC. Heineke needs to work on his touch passes. He's throwing 90-mile-an-hour fastballs every time he throws the ball, which I get. Maybe he was a little amped up. Maybe he was excited. I mean, he hasn't played since, the playoff loss to Tampa. He got hurt. He needs to go out there and prove himself. But I think he just needs to take a little bit of zip off the ball.
Yeah. Get ready, ding you. All right, so.
Yes, we have a new feature on the show. It's a I'm going to interrupt you, Bell.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick's like your boring party. He shows up with a bottle of rum in each hand, and here we go, hit the music. Everybody likes him a lot, which is fine.
Yeah.
I've seen quarterbacks everybody hated. Some guys they didn't help pick up afterwards. But, I'm going to try him now. I think Heineke is the perfect number 2.
Mhm.
At an edge, he can come in on a moment and get into a game quickly. He can spot start, a little bit like Gus Frerotte could do that. Quick learner, hit it. So I think he's the good one to keep as number 2 for now.
I agree.
And Allen's still getting over that ankle. So
I'm not even sure Allen makes the team. You have Logan Thomas, who can be your emergency number 3.
I think he does. I mean,
Yeah.
Ron likes him a lot.
I understand that.
All right. Defensive line kind of reminded me a little bit of last year.
Yep.
Ends, Montez Sweat didn't play.
I was going to say, Sweat didn't even play.
He was sick. But, Chase gets a sack strip at the 3rd snap. But in the second series, there's 2 long runs, 9 and 12 yards, went right up the middle.
Yeah.
And I remember that. So, when we talked about like Heineke, we kept talking about, didn't quite win that playoff game. Look back, the defense gave up 30 in that game. That's the last time they were on the field.
Yeah.
So, okay, now you've got Jamin Davis, who hopefully can help solve some of that. Cole Holmgren is, hopefully going to comb his hair and go play.
I was going to say, you're just jealous of his hair.
Yeah, I love his hair. and Landon Collins is back. So hopefully you can plug some of that, but you really don't want them to have to get the ball because he's already got 5 yards at that point.
Yeah.
So, they got to play.
I'll be honest with you, Rick. That I've seen the projected 53. If that's what it is, that defensive backfield is nasty. And they're not going to, if they can stuff the run and make a team pass when they have a lead, it could be good,
Yeah, I'm still not a big Jimmy Moreland fan, but he does make some plays, and kind of Rivera talks about him all the time.
Jimmy Moreland could end up being your 5th or 6th player on the depth chart. I mean, everybody's talking about St. Juice is coming out and balling in practice, and he looks the part. He's a hell of an athlete.
Yeah.
You've got a good mix of veterans and young guys with Fuller and Jackson. And, if Landon can be what he was with the Giants to get him this big contract, I mean, there's a lot of potential in that backfield.
Yeah. One guy in the game, it was hard to believe. This was Samus Ray's first football game ever. Yeah. And he caught a couple of balls, although he bobbled them. And, his hand still needs some work. The guy's trying hard. I don't know where he ends up on the roster, if he makes the roster, because they're afraid they're going to lose him. And if you lose him, well, whatever. They lost Kelvin Harmon. They decided to let him go, give him a chance elsewhere. Yeah. Man, he was such a good-looking rookie 2 years ago. Hurt
injury, man.
And now you got a staff that has no connection to that draft.
Yep.
So it's time to say goodbye.
Yeah.
I thought Kelvin Harmon's going to play ball somewhere.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He'll get picked up.
So, is it time to go yet?
That's it.
Yeah. You watch Rick Snyder's Washington on YouTube, that means time to go. So, all right, we got another one coming up Wednesday. We'll have the next one. We'll talk about other sports, I guess. I'm Rick Snyder.
And I'm Matt.
And we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Seasons of Discontent on the Hogstye Network.